Now, Alix, or Alexandra Fedorovna, as she was known in Russia, had to change her name to that. She had to change her religion, and she absolutely adored the Orthodox faith. Went into it fully, absolutely, hook, line, and sinker. Alexandra was painfully shy. I mean pathologically shy. Neither one of them liked being out in the public. They were both shy people, very private. This is a little difficult when you're the emperor and empress. Everything is public. And so she had to get through these things. She became neurasthenic as time passed, had neuralgia and headaches and all kinds of, she was very vain, rather superstitious, as it turns out, and mystical in her religious beliefs. But she became very unpopular. You see, with her painful shyness, she had to appear in formal occasions frequently, as she is there. And in order to deal with this, she would put on a face that was totally neutral, and then she would stand perfectly still and look out over everybody. Perceptions, you know these things. You did not speak to the royal. The royal spoke to you, and then you could have a conversation. But she would stand there, people would come forward, curtsy or bow. She would simply look. She didn't speak. Well, they couldn't say anything. They went on. If somebody came up, a general or a marshal or somebody that had to kiss her hand, she'd hold the hand out, kiss, gone, next, kiss, gone, next. She wouldn't speak to them. Well, of course, that gave the impression of her being arrogant and aloof and disinterested. None of those things she was, but that was the way she was dealing with it. And so they called her the German. That was an epithet. She had mother-in-law problems, you wouldn't guess. I mean, look at the two women. Marie, the most popular woman in Russia. Everybody loved the Empress Marie. Now she was the Dowager Empress. And on state occasions, the two women sat side by side, or stood. And in Russia, it was traditional when the emperor, on a state occasion, when the emperor came in, who was the last person usually to enter on an event, everybody stood up. Everybody stood up. Well, in Berlin, in capital of Prussia, or Germany now, the empire, when the Kaiser entered the hall, all the great ladies, his wife, his mother still living, the great aunts and all, remained seated. The rest of us stood up. Well, a great occasion occurred early in the career of Nicholas and Alexandra, and the function went forward, and pretty soon the emperor came in with his gentlemen, and everybody stood up, except Alexandra, his wife. And Marie, her mother-in-law, turned, put out her fan, said, "My dear, it is customary for everyone to rise when the emperor enters." Alexandra opened her fan and leaned toward her mother-in-law and said, "Mind your own business." Well, nobody ever spoke to Marie that way, but she realized she was not a fool. She was living there in the Winter Palace with her son and daughter-in-law, so she decided it was time for her to get out. She had her own palace down the road, the Anichkov, so she retired to that and stayed there, and her son, Nicholas, came to her for everything. He was totally a mama's boy. He went to her for advice on everything. Now, this was because that's the way he was raised. He had an unsympathetic father and a sympathetic mother, and he didn't discuss affairs of state with his wife. It just didn't seem appropriate for him. He discussed them with his mother. And Alexandra felt a little put out by this, but not against her husband, against her mother-in-law.